Good afternoon. If I could have your attention, we'll go ahead and get started. I take it that you can hear me okay back there. Sounds like we got great acoustics in the room, and I think our voice is Gary. My name is Gary Moore. I am the elected Judge Executive in Boone County, Kentucky. On behalf of the nation's 3,069 counties, I'd like to thank you for joining us today for our briefing on America's Counties, the Foundation for America Infrastructure. I'd also like to thank my fellow speakers today, Commissioner Cindy Bobbitt from Grant County, Oklahoma, and Supervisor Scott Haggerty of Alameda County, California, both esteemed members and leaders of NACo's Transportation Committee. Counties own 46% of the nation's roads, 38% of the nation's public bridges, and own and operate over 1/3 of the nation's airports and transit systems. We own more roads and bridges than any other unit of government in the country, making us the single biggest investor in local infrastructure, both at the urban level and at the rural level. With nearly 130,000 residents in my county, Boone County, Kentucky, we've tripled our population in the last 30 years. We're one of the fastest growing counties in the nation, percentage-wise. We're located in the largest bend on the Ohio River, just a few miles from Cincinnati, Ohio. And we are a complete county with natural beauty, rich history, strong economy, and wonderful people. Boone County is also the home of the Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky International Airport, CVG, located there in my home county. And it is one of the fastest growing freight airports in the nation. And I'll speak to that in this way. When we talk about strong federal partnerships and leveraging our resources, the county, back about 20 years ago when I came to office, began to design and build a highway across CVG airport land. They own about 7,000 acres in my county. And we built the road with a strong federal partnership. When we started, there were still earmarks. So we began with an earmark. Other funds flowed through our MPO. We did get some other dollars through other sources, but most of the funding was local county funding. That road that was built was the catalyst for us winning the Amazon Prime Air project. Prime Air is building their world hub at CVG along the north side of this road that was built with our federal partnership. They're going to be bringing thousands of jobs, $2 billion of capital investment, and 100 to 200 jets to our airport. They'll supply landing fees and other revenue that will help our airport catapult to an even higher level. Right now, we're the 8th largest freight hub in the nation, and it's projected that after the primary build-out, we'll probably be in the top 3. That road project, that partnership, is what put us in a position to win that project. Founded in 1935, NACo assists America's counties in pursuing excellence in public service to produce healthy, vibrant, safe, and resilient counties. Counties are highly diverse, not only in my state, but across the nation. We vary immensely in natural resources, social, and political systems, and cultural, economic, and structural circumstances. Despite this diversity, all counties fulfill some similar responsibilities at the local level. Counties are responsible for supporting and maintaining public infrastructure, transportation, and economic development assets, providing justice, law enforcement, and public safety, while protecting the public's health and well-being. In the area of infrastructure, which is what brought us here today, the federal government has been a stable and needed partner in infrastructure investment across the country. Simply put, the strength of the federal, state, local partnership for infrastructure investment will determine the strength of our infrastructure network. The two are very much intertwined. A change in this time-tested blueprint for infrastructure investment would have adverse effects on the entire nation. Our infrastructure networks indeed touch us all, whether it's being just as simple as getting us to work, our children to school, or making sound investments in getting goods to market. Like the title of our briefing explains, counties truly are the foundation for the nation's infrastructure network in the U.S., and we look forward to illustrating that today. At this time, I would like to invite our speakers. I'll first start with our speaker from Grant County, Oklahoma. Cindy Bobbitt is the Vice Chair of NACo's Transportation Steering Committee and a County Commissioner and part of our leadership. She actually represents the Midwest portion of our nation on the NACo Executive Committee as well. Commissioner? Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Moore. And welcome to our briefing here today. We really appreciate each and every one of you taking time out of your busy day to join us on this very important issue that we're going to be discussing here today. And especially I want to thank the National Association of Counties for hosting this. The nation's counties play an essential role in America's transportation and infrastructure networks, investing more than $120 billion each year in roads, bridges, ports, transits, water systems, and other public facilities. Counties facilitate everything from America's daily commute to the shipping of goods around our globe. The decision that county leaders make every day about transportation, land use, and economic development influence local and national prosperity, shape how communities grow, and contribute to the quality of our American lives. Being one of only 7 women county commissioners in Oklahoma, I am strongly passionate about my county's infrastructure needs. Grant County is a rural county along the Oklahoma-Kansas border with a population of 4,500 people. Our economy is based largely on agriculture, oil and gas, and wind energy. Infrastructure is not a rural versus urban issue because, in fact, we're all local partners together, and we include our American Native Indian tribes with us as our partner. The federal government is an essential part with us in addressing our nation's critical infrastructure challenges. At the local level, counties see the direct impact of federal investment, which helps us not only to move our goods and our people, but it also drives our local economies. My county has extensive infrastructure challenges as we have the most bridges and the 5th highest number of road miles in the entire state of Oklahoma. Grant County has over 3,000 bridge and bridge-like structures, including 535 bridges that are captured on the NBI, the National Bridge Inventory. Now that's 3,000 bridges with 4,500 people. Think about that. That's almost a bridge a person. Our challenge moving forward is that we must build for the future, not the present. This is why a federal, state, local partnership is so critical. We are building for the future of America's all 3,069 counties. I'm going to share with you a couple of examples of federal, state, local partnerships and why they are important to America. First, because of the condition of the county bridges, Oklahoma County Commissioners have worked to accelerate bridge replacement efforts with our state. An example of a partnership came through the Oklahoma Department of Transportation in 2011 when they transferred 2,067 used beams from the deconstruction of the crosstown I-40 bridge in Oklahoma City for repurposing on county bridges. Grant County received over 100 beams, more than any other county in the state, and we have built a dozen new bridges using these beams with county funds. We have 2 additional bridges that we are going to build in the next couple of years, but we're going to use federal funds through the STP, the Surface Transportation Program, through the FAST Act to help pay for the remaining cost of those bridges. Counties can see savings of $15,000 to $40,000 per project with these beams. Today, 45 counties have built 165 new bridges and more are being planned. This is a great example of a federal, state, local partnership. Second, a crucial component to any infrastructure plan for counties are municipal bonds with their tax-exempt status preserved. Municipal bonds finance a range of locally selected infrastructure projects and have a long history of low default. Between 2003 and 2012, counties, states, and other localities invested $3.2 trillion in infrastructure through long-term tax-exempt municipal bonds, 2.5 times greater than the federal investment. Simply stated, the tax exemption of municipal bond interest from federal income tax represents one of the best examples of a federal, state, local partnership. How many people in here have ports in their state? Now remember, I'm from Oklahoma, but I have ports in my state too. Yes, the Tulsa Port of Catoosa began as a partnership between the city of Tulsa and Rogers County. Voters passed a $21.2 million GO, general obligation bond, in 1967 to begin construction, and then private partners then came aboard. Justification for the port centered around increased economic development. After right-of-way acquisition, the state of Oklahoma constructed the roads. Later, a $537,000 EDA grant through the federal government was approved for Rogers County for the economic development of railroad spurs within the industrial park. As of December 2017, more than 82 million tons of freight on 50,000 barges has been shipped to or from the port since it opened in 1971. Most people don't realize that the Tulsa Port of Catoosa gives our nation a great advantage when it comes to competing in a global economy. This is an example of infrastructure that must be maintained and continually improved if we wish to stay ahead of countries that are rapidly increasing their infrastructure investment. The Tulsa Port of Catoosa is a tremendous illustration of a federal, state, local partnership along with a 3P, public-private partnership, on so many different levels. Quickly, I would like to mention a couple other examples that counties support reflecting goals of the administration, including a plan for a one agency, one decision environmental review structure leading to a green light permitting process to shrink the timeline to a 2-year maximum time for permit processes. This would be an enormous improvement on the state, federal, local partnership. Additionally, streamlining NEPA, the National Environment Policy Act, review for categorical exclusions for smaller scale projects is another great example to be more efficient with taxpayer dollars, your dollars. Counties could and would benefit from removing sometimes duplicated processes that causes delays and increases cost waiting for federal approval. Less time wasted equals savings for projects. In conclusion, counties that tie infrastructure investments to complement community goals are well positioned to grow businesses, create quality jobs, retain and attract skilled workers, and support families to build lasting communities for generations. Our greatest challenge is ensuring that we build and maintain a safe, efficient transportation system that allows counties, states, and our nation to remain competitive in an increasing global marketplace. In reality, we need to be investing well above the current insufficient level. As county, state, or nation, just trying to stay afloat isn't going to put us in a position to compete in the global economy. We can continue to lead and win the future, but we must be willing to invest at least as much in our infrastructure network as our competitors are investing in their own futures. That is why it's important that we build a foundation for American infrastructure on a strong federal, state, local partnership that addresses our transportation initiatives. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Bobbitt. Having that explanation of the importance of rural infrastructure is so important to this discussion. We appreciate it. Now I would like to introduce Alameda County, California Supervisor, former NACo Transportation Committee Chair, and current Vice Chair, Supervisor Scott Haggard.
Well, thank you, and good afternoon, Hill staff and fellow NACo colleagues. I'm glad to be here to discuss the importance of our federal project, our federal partnership in infrastructure development. We have an acute infrastructure repair and development needs throughout the country, and I would like to speak to some of the issues we face in Alameda County. Alameda County is the heart of the San Francisco Bay Area, and it is made up of 14 cities: Oakland, Livermore, Fremont. It also has a population of 1.6 million people. By 2040, the population of Alameda County is expected to increase by 30% because of the region's strong economy as it continues to grow. Alameda County is the home of the Port of Oakland, the Oakland International Airport, and the majority of the Bay Area's national primary highway freight system, Interstate 80, 238, 580, 680, and 880. We also have 2 Class 1 railroads, the UP and the BNSF. Alameda County voters 3 times have voted, beginning in 1986, to tax themselves, now 1 cent for every dollar, to support local transportation priorities, providing critical local funds to deliver local, regional, and national solutions. With federal support, we have delivered a tremendous return on investment that we need to continue the partnership to meet current and future needs. In 2014, a 30-year Measure BB, transportation sales tax measure, was approved by 70% of the voters in Alameda County. Since Measure BB passed, more than $250 million has been generated. With that money, we have funded cities, counties, and transit agencies to support and expand mobility options and regionally and nationally significant infrastructure, such as highways, interchanges, transit, capital investment, goods movement projects, and the Port of Oakland. But we cannot meet our needs without the support of the federal government and the partnership to leverage our local funding. Our program is estimated to be $8 billion. We are working with regional, state, and you, our federal partners, to close the funding need of $5.2 billion. We have several requests and recommendations to improve this partnership. In order to deliver these projects, we need an approach, project development, funding, and delivery with the partnership mindset. Delivery with the partnership mindset rather than a regulatory mindset. We need to streamline project development and delivery in order to provide real improvement to our voters. With many of the projects, primarily funded with our local and state sources, federal funding is a critical component to fully close the funding gaps. The federal process comes with so many strings and hurdles that causes project delays. There needs to be some reasonable thresholds in terms of strings that are attached to the federal funds on the base amount of federal funding projects that they are receiving. A project that receives $100,000 in federal funding should not come with the same amount of requirements as those that receive $100 million. We also encourage federal funds to flow directly to local agencies that will be implementing the projects. Reducing the number of government agencies funding flows through, for example, federal, state, MPO, local agencies, can reduce project administration and processes, regulatory delays, and get projects deliveries more quickly. We encourage the continued NEPA delegation to the local states and the NEPA 404 integration framework to encourage multi-agency review and permitting process. Some of the key areas that we are investing in and look to continue to partner with the federal state government are goods movement, technology, and transit. The Bay Area is a critical link to the larger Northern California mega region, supporting almost $1 trillion in freight flows in the mega region economy, and this is expected to grow to $2.6 trillion by 2040. Roughly 1/3 of the jobs are in goods movement dependent industries. Global opportunities at the Port of Oakland, a project also known as GoPort, was a recipient of nearly $10 million Advanced Transportation and Congestion Management Technologies Deployment. Yes, that is a federal program. The grant, it was given to us in the fall of 2017. FHWA fully funded that request, in large part due to our local funding to support integration of freight community systems and advanced ITS technology. We are also bringing local and hopefully state resources to deliver other elements of the GoPort program. Again, demonstrating the impact we can have when we leverage local, state, and federal dollars to deliver infrastructure projects that support local, regional, and national economies. Urban freight corridors, such as express lanes, provide dual advantages. Our technology solutions on Interstate 580 express lanes improve operations, which support more efficient goods movement in the corridors. Ongoing support for good movements investments are national trade and economic interests. Technology, we are the leaders in planning and deploying transportation technology to reduce congestion through implementing tolling and integrating corridor management concepts on some of the most congested freeways in the Bay Area. In Alameda County, we have delivered some of the most advanced, comprehensive highway technology improvements and significant improvements, and thanks to our local and federal funding partnerships. We break ground this month on our new express lane corridor on 680, connecting Fremont to the Silicon Valley with the Tri-Valley, a $107 million construction project approved late 2017. This was the second lane of I-680 express lanes. The first wave was supported by the Federal Value Pricing Pilot Program. This was a great example of the local and federal money coming together to create jobs, advancing new innovative pricing strategies, and reducing a congestion in a critical corridor. This month is the second anniversary of the 580 express lane opening. With this major goods movement corridor, we have seen significant time savings for those who use the lanes and the improvements to the general purpose lanes, as well as where the freight moves. Transit, capital improvements, such as the most recent opening of the BART to Warm Springs, a link of California's and the nation's strongest economy centers. Alameda County transit systems support over 1 million trips a year. And with this project, we will increase those numbers and provide additional commute and travel options. Transit operations and capital investments are essential to moving people more efficiently. Our transportation sales tax measure has allocated almost 50% of the total funds to both transit and capital operations, including helping fund federal Americans with Disability Act requirements and a student transit bus program. The passage of SB1 in California has facilitated a critical partnering between the state and local counties in meeting the transportation needs of growing and evolving population. Over a 10-year period, SB1 will pump over $52 billion into repairs while dedicating $7.8 billion to transit and improving mass transit systems and projects such as extending BART to San Jose. I would like to thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to my colleagues and also people here in the federal government. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Supervisor Haggerty. We are expecting a couple of special guests, and we want to continue the dialogue. Let me ask the audience if you have any questions at this point, or if you have any examples you would like to present of strong federal, local projects. I think it's interesting when we talk about streamlining and we talk about the processes, we know that time is money. So I think it's always important when we are talking to these issues, speaking to these issues, we're not always asking for money, not just here with our hand out to say we need funds to make these projects happen. Of course we do, but at the same time, streamlining processes and dealing with regulations can be a great benefit to us at the local level. We, in our area, with the fast population growth and economic development growth that we're seeing, time is money and time is critical. We have a situation right now on a new interchange we're trying to build, and we're constantly told you can't begin the right-of-way process. Even the appraisal process of what you might be able to offer sometime in the future until every I is dotted and T is crossed on the environmental, archaeology, and other processes. We care about our environment. And it's our county, it's our community. We don't want to do anything that's going to do harm, but we do need to make sure that we can streamline the process and make sure that things might happen simultaneous rather than connected end to end. Other thoughts? Are there any questions of us? By the way, Commissioner Bobbitt did need to get to another event. She has stepped out. So if you have questions about rural, we'll try to answer them. But any questions on the rural or urban side?
So I would like to say that Commissioner Bobbitt and myself, we didn't speak, but it was kind of interesting. We didn't compare notes or anything, but it was kind of interesting that what we talked about was relatively the same, even though you were urban or rural. It's streamlining the NACo project, the process, and also when we get the federal money, don't run it through a process of many agencies. Give it straight to the agency that's doing the work. Those were her comments, those were my comments. That's what's important. I also want to point out that when I talked about that full cent sales tax that the voters approved by over 70%, and that's happened since 1986, that's a total of $12 billion at the Alameda County. I mean, this is a community of 1.6 million people. That's $12 billion since 1986 that they've raised locally to do transportation projects within their community. And I do realize that in other states, they don't allow counties to be able to do that. I get that. And that's one of the things we're lucky about in California, that we're able to do something like that. But did you hear when I said that over 70% of the voters voted in favor of taxing themselves to be able to do transportation projects and transit projects in their own communities? And what I think the reason why that has become such a success is because what we do is we give them a list of projects and we say, we're going to do these projects with the money that you give us. And both times we've been extremely successful in delivering those projects. And so the voters trust us. So when we come back and we say, can we reauthorize this? Or like, a few years ago in 2014, when we went back and said, can we reauthorize this? And we be a little bit more greedy and add another half cent and go to a full cent. They said, sure, no problem, 70% of the voters. I mean, that's unbelievable. So, and that, now that we have SB1, which was the increase in the state gas tax, we're going to be able to get some serious transportation projects done within our communities.
What a great example that is. And to Supervisor's point, many counties do not have sales tax authority.
And I said that.
Yeah, you did.
I said that.
You did.
That's a shame.
And so Kentucky is one of those states that does not allow sales tax. We do, most of our revenue comes from property tax. And we also have a 4% cap on annual growth of the property tax. So very limited in some states. Other states have tools. But that, again, is why we need to have a strong federal partnership. Yes, sir.
Judge Boone, thank you. I also serve as a NACo Transportation Vice Chair with Judge Boone. And I come from a rural county in Idaho, Valley County, 88% public lands managed by the federal government. And in early years, we enjoyed the timber receipts. And those timber receipts came into my county at over $3 million. And as a secure rural school, as we quit cutting timber and the secure rural schools came into play, we continued to get that $3 million, or a little more than $3 million. But then with sequestration and Congress not authorizing as much money, we're down to about $1.8 million in the last authorization. Last year it wasn't reauthorized, so we got $148,000. So we went from millions of dollars to a few $1,000s. And if that isn't tough, without the payment in lieu of taxes that also comes from those lands not being reauthorized, we're hurting out there for our infrastructure. We got a federal land access grant, and it took us 5 years to get the match money put together with our small project. So thank you for letting me speak and talk about a very rural county that is probably going to send pavement back to gravel because we can't afford to maintain it the way we should. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, our guest has joined us, and I very much appreciate that example as well. At this time, I would like to introduce Congressman Sam Graves of Missouri's 6th Congressional District. Representative Graves serves as the chairman of the White House Subcommittee on Highways and Transit. This committee oversees the development of a national transportation policy and focuses on improving America's highway system. As chairman, Representative Graves continues to work on infrastructure issues that persist across the U.S., including highways, bridges, and roads in need of maintenance and repair. Representative Graves is also a member of the House Committee on Armed Services. Congressman Graves remains determined to protect various military installations and all the brave men and women who serve in uniform. Mr. Chairman, welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Pleasure to be here, and appreciate the opportunity. We're kind of obviously interested that you're here today. We had a hearing this morning in Transportation with Secretary Chow talking about the President's infrastructure package, which we're going to start working on. We're going to do WRIT first, which is the Water Resources Bill, then we'll move right into infrastructure this year, and that's what the plan is. We've got to get FAA reauthorization done somewhere in there as well, but I don't think that'll take as much time as obviously this infrastructure package. So this thing's going to be massive. Rural broadband, water systems, sewer systems, highways, bridges, aviation, rail, everything's going to be in it. Obviously the biggest problem is going to be finding the money. We're having a hearing tomorrow in my committee on trying to look at some of the alternatives to some of the options that we have out there. The President's obviously talking about his package. That's just a blueprint. The legislation will come. It'll probably be quite a little bit different, or at least somewhat different than what the President's going to be proposing. It's just like his budget. When he sends a budget down, that's the blueprint, and then we start working on it. But we are going to have to figure out where we get the dollars we're going to have to use. We're going to be obviously creative, using P3s. We're also taking a hard look at how much local input's going to be there, how much local support for the project. We'll have some new programs possibly too, depending on what we're looking at. But everything right now is just tentative. We're just starting through this process. We got a lot to learn, and we're looking for input from all the stakeholders out there too, which obviously you all are a very big part of that. I am very pleased to see that it's going to be targeted a lot to rural areas. I represent a very, very rural district in those parts of the country, obviously. Some of us think it's been neglected for some time, but we are going to see some emphasis on a lot of rural projects. So, questions, thoughts, ideas? Sir?
Thank you, Congressman Graves. Steve Hobbs, Audrain County, Missouri. You've got constituents in the audience. Thank you so much for speaking about rural broadband. As you well know in your district, we have whole areas where folks can't get access to broadband in their house. Farmers are having to drive to the local McDonald's or a dealership to upgrade the technology in their equipment. It's a big problem for us, and it needs to be addressed.
And it's a problem everywhere around the country, for that matter too. It's a real serious problem, and it's frustrating, particularly in today's world, which is so heavily dominated by the internet, and every business out there depends on the internet now. And it's frustrating when you can't get that access. Believe me, I know. I come from a little tiny town called Tarkio, Missouri, way up in northwest Missouri. It's about 1,500 people, so we're about as rural can be.
Mr. Chairman, we counties own about 46% of the highways, 38% of the bridges, and we own or operate about a third of the nation's airports and transit system. We are the largest owner of infrastructure of any of the levels, whether it be state, federal, and local. As this work happens, we appreciate these kinds of opportunities for you to hear our input. And as you move forward, we would ask that we continue that dialogue.
Well, we need it too. You all are the boots on the ground, so to speak. You're the ones that are going to be implementing this, using the programs, working to better the infrastructure. So we're going to be depending heavily on stakeholders, and that's you all are a big part of that. Yeah.
Two things. One, for a rural county, that we couldn't wait for the federal and state government. We invested $13 million of our own money in the last 6 years. So if the new program has to match money, we're already at a disadvantage because we probably spent all the money we got for about the next 12 years. So I don't know how we can work around that. I mean, we've already invested that. And then I think there has to be a piece in there for the rural. The other piece I want to talk about is railroads. We're part of a 5-county rail authority in Minnesota. We own 94 miles of freight railroad. And there has to be a piece in there for freight railroads for rural. And we're part of the Tiger grant right now. There's 450 going after little hot money.
Yeah.
You know, but we've got corn, beans that are going to feed the world, and we have to be able to. We're just about to a point where we're at a bridge across the river, and it's 30, somewhere around.
Is that your Tiger grant? What's your Tiger grant?
Our Tiger grant that we're on is Minnesota Valley Regional Rail Authority. We go across southern Minnesota.
Yeah.
So, but whatever you can do, especially for the public-owned railroads, especially the freight ones.
Rail's going to be part of the pipelines, I didn't mention pipeline. Part of it too.
Does that include passenger rail?
That's a good question. We got, we've obviously got some problems with passenger rail. We go back and forth when it comes to Amtrak. My frustration has been for some time now, Amtrak can fill that void where we don't have private companies that are willing to bid, but when you've got private companies now that have to bid against Amtrak, a government subsidized entity, I think that's wrong. So I think we need to do a hard look at Amtrak and passenger, but definitely we have to, right now, particularly some of these commuter lines are vitally important. We have to make sure that they are strong and healthy and moving forward. Transit's a very important part, particularly in certain corridors. My part of the world, it's not as important, but the Northeast corridor, Los Angeles. In fact, we were just talking to folks in Los Angeles about a new transit project that they're working on. It's important, particularly in those corridors. So it'll be a part of it. Wow, stumped it really.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for speaking, Congressman. I'm with the National Association of County Engineers. And regarding structurally deficient bridges, your state DOT had a very aggressive, admired program for addressing that issue. Lots of other states talk about it. I'm curious if that program has sparked interest among your committee members.
It has, and are you talking specifically about, we've got the
You did
bridge replacement program,
and you targeted replacing a large number of bridges in a short period of time. which is
when we use the
remarkable.
bridge replacement program, which interestingly enough, the state of Missouri, we kind of successed our way out of the program. We changed it in the last highway bill so that we kept it going. Our counties use that heavily, and you're right, Missouri is very aggressive at it. We've got something like 10,000 bridges in my district, or in the state of Missouri that, are deficient or got problems or whatever the case may be. But we did change the program a little bit in terms of opening it up so that you didn't, success yourself out of it. But definitely, we had a lot of people come to us and ask us when we did the last highway bill. We haven't really talked about it for a year or so now since we did that. But there's a lot of interest in what Missouri's doing. I hope we see more of that around the country and some of the other states, because not in the state, we use it aggressively in Missouri.
We actually put a half-cent sales tax in Audrain County north of I-70, and in 1985, sunset every 4 years. It was finally allowed to expire in 2010. The upshot of that was we leveraged the federal Office of Bridge Program to build over 200 bridges in our county, and we are in right-of-way acquisition on the last efficient bridge we have left in our county right now.
Now, my home county, Atchison County, was, I think we pretty well placed everything. They've been very, very aggressive. It works really, really well. I hope more states take advantage of it. But when we were changing the program to allow, it seems to me like once you got to a certain percentage of deficient bridges, once you got that down, you weren't eligible for the program anymore. And I lowered that, and we had a lot of interest in other areas.
The president had mentioned something about a gas tax increase.
Yeah, and we're trying, that's the biggest thing we're looking at right now is how we fund the trust fund moving forward, not just the infrastructure package. I don't believe, and I've got a problem with fuel taxes anyway, because we have a lot of vehicles on the road that simply don't pay anymore. They're either not buying gas or, they're hybrids. Fuel efficiency is getting better and better all the time, and it's regressive. We're seeing it, those revenues coming down just simply because there's so many vehicles using the road that do not pay any tax. So we're looking at alternatives. Higher tax has been suggested. Tolling is obviously suggested. I do not particularly like tolling. I don't like paying for something twice. That's a personal opinion. VMT is probably my favorite. I would like to see something along VMT lines. Commercial sector will be fairly easy. But passenger, I think it'll have to come a little bit later. We got some people out there that are very, worried about, the government tracking. Well, that's not really the proposal. There's technology now that allows people with an odometer to talk to the gas pump, and it figures it right there when you are fueling up, or if you're electrocuting up, or whatever the case you're doing, or filling propane, or whatever you're doing. You can figure that out on the go. Because that was something that worried a lot of people too, is you can't hit them with a tax bill at the end of the year. It's just going to be too expensive. And that's the great part about the gas tax is you pay it as you go. You pay it every day. So we're actually looking at other things. I don't think we could get, in reality, I don't think we could get a gas tax passed through the House of Representatives. So I think we look at VMT, then maybe we could possibly do some sort of a indexing component through that, but I don't think a gas. I don't think we ought to even try, to be honest with you, because it is so expensive.
Barrel tax? Barrel tax?
Barrel tax is a possibility as well. We're looking at everything. Everything's on the table in terms of funding the highway trust fund moving forward. And I think it runs out. When is Jack? 2020 is when it ends, or when it goes insolvent.
Just got a text from one of your constituents in Villa Hills, said he needs a bridge.
That's the French Fence bridge.
There's been a lot of comments about a bridge program, and I'll plead ignorance, I don't know what you're talking about.
It's a matching program and actually, the folks from Audrey can probably even explain it better than I can, but it's a matching program to the federal government. And what is the match? 80-20? That's what I thought it was. And it works very, very well. If your state qualifies, it's a
state-only program? It's not?
No, it's a federal program.
No, I mean, the state has to apply.
I think so, Jack. Because I don't think all states participate in it, to be honest with you.
Well, not all states qualify to participate, so yeah. Depends on what you're using.
Missouri's used it. I mean, certainly Kansas has too, for that matter. I'm very familiar with those just simply because of where I live. But the states that have used it have used it very, very effectively. In fact, some of our counties have gotten pretty creative about it too, because the money that they get to save off the match, that they have a few bridges that don't qualify under the federal program, and they end up replacing those as well with the money they've saved from the match.
That's what we did.
There are those projects of national significance that are too big for one state, like the French Fence Bridge to Cincinnati, the Gateway Project and others. Do you foresee that there might be something available for those mega projects?
Yeah, there will be, just like the highway bill that we passed that had that, we had that title in there for major, I think it was, did we do it on, it was freight corridors? And there will definitely be some like that, I'm sure. But you got to remember too, though, this thing is going to be massive. It isn't just going to be roads and bridges. It's going to be, as we mentioned, your broadband, sewer systems, water systems, right? Anything touching your ports, a lot of money going for ports, which we got to do.
So, Congressman, how many different departments are actually going to, the funding that's going to fund all this infrastructure, how many different departments is that going to come out of, like Department of Transportation and USDA?
That's a good question. I can't necessarily tell you how many departments it's going to come out of, but I think we got 4 committees of jurisdiction that are going to be, we'll obviously be doing framework stuff, but there'll be 4 committees of jurisdiction just in the House of Representatives, so that means there's going to be a lot of departments involved.
Do you believe President Trump's tariffs on steel and aluminum would have any effect on the infrastructure plan, and if so, what would that look like?
I don't know. It's hard to tell at this point. Will it have any impact on, I mean, it could possibly have some impact when it comes to, you know, depending on how much concrete we pour versus how much asphalt gets laid. You know, because the rebar, bridges, I don't know, it's hard to tell, to be honest with you.
We'd like to thank you, Mr. Chairman. We always like to remind our guests, of course, as county government, just because money flows to the states doesn't necessarily mean it gets to the right place. And please keep that in mind, and the ability to directly apply for projects is always so important. So we thank you.
We're going to do, I did mention one thing too, when it comes to projects, because we've eliminated, when we eliminated earmarks to earmark reform, we eliminated the House's, or at least the legislative branch of government's authority to be able to direct that money, which you can have earmark reform. The way you do earmark reform is just make it transparent. That's how you solve the problems with earmarks. But what we have done with things like the Highway Trust Fund or WRDA, whatever the case may be, aviation, is we have, you know, the money's going to get spent anyway. But we have said, you know, the legislative branch, who's the closest to the people, isn't going to make the decision anymore. We're going to give it to the administration, the bureaucrats who aren't elected by anyone, aren't accountable to anyone, and we have to fix that. We absolutely have to fix that. We have to get projects back into these projects, which would help you all in a big way.
Absolutely. Thanks again.
Thank you all.